Hello everyone. Um, go live. Go live. I'm trying to see if it's a good idea to use our streaming function to on YouTube and Facebook to go over the Patron questions. This is one of the questions that we didn't manage to. It came to us a little bit late, so I didn't manage to cover it. Ali and I didn't manage to cover it in our scheduled Q&A sessions. So I wanted to see if this would be a good way to address the ones that we didn't get a chance to address. I didn't know if it was okay to leave the name, so I just hit it. Let me just make sure if this is working. I have to sneeze, but it's just not happening apparently. I hate it when it happens. Let me just see. It seems like we're live on the Facebook page and the Facebook group and also on YouTube. All right, this is good. I think this is the best way of, yeah, I can see people are seeing this. Okay, good. All right, so let me just see. Hope I am not too late. Here are a couple of questions. Okay, so first question. By the way, I didn't think about these questions. I should probably thought about them before just going live. But I'm just gonna wing it. Where do you progressives who are this? I'm gonna leave just a little bit far away. I'm gonna read it off of this screen over here. Where do progressives who are concerned about the regressive nature of Islam go politically? You mean I think what you mean is the regressive nature of people who defend Islam politically, because Islam itself is not regressive at all. Islam itself maybe take advantage of the regressive left, but itself it's not regressive. I mean, actually, wait a minute. Depends on what you mean by regressive. If you're talking about the regressive that has been coined recently by Majid Nawaz, in the post, yeah, I mean, it is okay. Technically, yeah, okay. Islam is regressive, but these days when we say regressive, we're mostly talking about the regressive left, and that's what we are mostly talking about, right? But yeah, Islam is definitely regressive, but I think that's what people as these days associate regressive the regressive left with. But no, I think it's funny because we kept on using it so much that I forgot that I didn't pay attention to the fact that the regressive has its own meaning, obviously, and obviously Islam is not progressive. It is very regressive. Sorry, I misspoke there. But let me see. I am in the US and dislike just about everything about Trump, and yet there is not one single Democrat that will call out FGM, honor killing, death penalties for apostasy, etc. Yep, I know you are in Canada. Yes, I am, and it seems the same. It's actually worse here, I think, in Canada. Yeah, it's really, this is the okay. So this is actually the problem with Trump, isn't it? The problem is that you can't just support somebody just because they come and say one thing that you agree with, and the problem is that because the people that are saying we're constantly trying to bring attention to people that are fighting the Islamic ideology and try to make sure that we call it out when we see it, and then if people like Trump or even worse people than him come and call it out, and there's nobody else from the liberal left, which should be calling Islam out because it basically stands for against everything they value. When that doesn't happen, and what you're gonna get is that you're gonna get some people being like, well, my main concern is Islam, and apparently these people are calling out Islam, and then they get attracted to those groups of people on the right. Not just the right. I mean, not everybody on the right is bad, but the alt-right or um, you know, or even white supremacists and stuff like that. But even though their agenda is completely different than the liberals that are trying to find a way to criticize Islam, sometimes they might decide, wrongfully so, that these are the people that are doing, the only people that seem to be calling it out, and they might be joining them. And the thing is that we might lose a lot of valuable allies to these groups of people that have different intentions. Their intentions is not very. I mean, and I mean this is the problem with a lot of people on the left. Not, of course, not every time we say this, people on the left come and say, "Hey, what are you talking about? I call it Islam." Yeah, of course, but you have just like people on the right have to be able to admit that there are issues within their camp. There are there's a lot of racism in the right. There's a lot of anti-science within the right. I mean, also now within the left. The people from the left should also admit that there's a lot of hypocrisy going out from their camp, even if they themselves are not responsible for it. You have to acknowledge it if you want to fix it. And the truth is that there's a lot of people on the left that not only don't call out Islam, but sometimes defend Islam, which has values that goes significantly against whatever liberal values stood for. And the warning was out there that if you keep doing this, you're gonna make the only people with power in the West that are calling out Islam for its illiberal values is going to be these far-right groups, and you're going to empower them, and people are going to get so desperate and so worried that if there's no one from the left calling these out, then you're going to go to the right. And not just with regards to Islam, this whole PC culture, people warned about that as well. And then when it actually did happen, Trump got elected because of these PC culture. Then the left, instead of learning a lot of people from the left, instead of learning a lesson, you're like, oh my God, what kind of a monster we created. We needed to address these things. We should have addressed these things. We shouldn't have let these people own it. Instead, they concluded, a lot of them, again, not. I don't want to constantly say not all. # not all. Okay, just not all and everything I say. A lot of people on the left, it took the opposite. The conclusion. They're like, look, this is exactly what we were warning guys about. Look, they're real. And like, you created them, you idiots. You empowered them. You are responsible for the rise of Trump. And now people like Trump and the rise of the alt-right make our job a lot more difficult, because every time we constantly, our mission was already difficult, to go out and say, look, these are the ideas that we're against, these are the values that we're against. We're not xenophobes, we're not racists, we're not bigots. But our voices were so not noticed and not highlighted that when these people came and they from the right came, and then all of a sudden they got all the highlight, they got all the platforms. Anybody like us that mentioned anything that's even remotely sounded similar to what they had to say was lumped into them. And also what didn't help is that we noticed, okay, a lot of people that are desperate for any messages, anybody talking about Islam, went to these right-wing panels and channels and whatever, and that's where they're hanging out. So we wanted to go to these people and try to get them on our side. We went them to say, like, look, listen, we know Islam, we've been against Islam forever, for a very long time, and these are what we have a problem with it. These are the reasons why we have a problem with it, and this is not about Muslims, this is about Islam, and trying to steal some of their audience. And then when we try to go there, because that's where they all were, because I noticed a lot of bigots have that joined our camp changed their tune. People that used to say nuke the Middle East, nuke the entire region, are now, I noticed that they're following us, they're now saying, oh, we're against Islam, not Muslims. So it does work. We are able to steal their audience and change them to our side. So it is worth going on their platforms and trying to get their audience away from them. And then, but actually, what happened was the allegations of us ex-Muslims being part of the alt-right increased even after that, because you're showing up on their panels. Even if you're challenging them, they're like saying, no, you're not challenging them. They're not even watching what you're saying to them, right? You're not even criticizing just Islam. You're going on their alt-right, usually Christian channels. You're saying you have a problem with Christianity as well. But they say, no, you just, no matter how much you... I remember I questioned, for example, when Dave Rubin came on the Secular Jihadist podcast, I really asked him a lot of questions that I did notice a lot of other people weren't asking him. Like we did not go easy on him. But then I saw people on Twitter saying, oh, you draw softballs at them. And they didn't even spend the time to watch it. So it doesn't really matter what you do. And then I ask them, but hey, I also go on Islamic shows. I get invited on that as well. And then they say, well, yeah, we go on Islamic channel, you're challenging Islam. And that's different. Or like, yeah, when I went on right-wing channels, I also said things against right-wing. Like the problem, okay, so again, right-wing shouldn't be used as a... We have to understand there's a difference between right-wing and alt-right, okay? So there's a lot of good people on the left, there's a lot of good people on the right. Not everybody on the left is a snowflake social justice warrior, regressive leftist. Not everybody on the right is alt-right, racist, bigot, but they both have to admit that they have those problems on their side. So when I do go on the right, the problem that we have with a lot of people on their camp is the fact that there's a lot of xenophobia and racism there, and bigotry. And you do mention the fact that this is, let me see if this is working. Yeah, it is working. Is it working? Yes. You do mention the fact that, hey, we're not against Muslims, okay? And we are against the ideology. This is, we understand the ideology is a problem, right? And then you take a jab at Christianity for good measure as well, just so that you could make the point clear that this is an ideological issue, not the same as, blaming other people. And you also mentioned that a lot of Muslims don't know Islam, so don't think just because somebody is a Muslim they're following all these rules that people have scared you about, right? You do that, and I think that's the best way to go about it. But going back to, I think I really steered away from the question here. What was the question? So the question is something that I don't know really how to address. I mean, what can we do? What can we do is what we're doing right now. Make podcasts like this. And to the person that you sent us this question, I mean, thank you so much for this is a Patron question, by the way, so you're supporting this podcast. And I mean, I don't really know what else we could do. The only thing we could do is constantly talk about these things and try to bring attention to it and try to get a bigger audience. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to grow this audience so that our views are heard by more people. We don't have a good options on either the left or the right. And the thing is that we have to reach out to both, I guess, so that we could create, it doesn't matter if they're on the right or the left. We have to reach out to both of them and try to create people that listen to us and maybe see things our way. I mean, if the options are not there, we have to create those options. So question number 2 is, I know you have touched on this before, but your thoughts on Muslim immigration. Oh my God, that's a tough one. Let me see if this is working here. And this is working here as well. Yep, it's working. By the way, our YouTube channel is quite small. If you guys subscribe to our YouTube channel, you'll always get notifications for this. And this would really, really helpful. This is right now being streamed on both Facebook and YouTube. Let me see. Let me just make sure the YouTube version of it is... I'm trying to... make sure this is not just answering questions. This is a test as well, just to see if I'm able to do this, because I've been doing this on Atheist Republic. I haven't been doing this yet. It seems like it's working fine. All right. So the second question, which I wish I thought about it a little bit more before coming here. Let me see. Okay. So immigration. I know you have touched on this before, but your thoughts on Muslim immigration. Oh my goodness. All right. I absolutely want the West to be a haven and a place of freedom for people like you. Well, thank you. Ayaan Hirsi Ali, etc. On the other hand, I don't think we need more people in the West who think FGM. By the way, for those people who don't know, FGM is female genital mutilation, which is horrific. I mean, just go try watching a video about these things. Anyways, honor killings, blasphemy laws, etc. are okay. Yeah, I agree. I don't want people like that here. At one point I also say that if you do have people like that here, it might be a good way for some people to realize that this is a problem that needs to be addressed. But if you look at UK right now and other European countries, it seems like it doesn't matter how many people they see, how many immigrants you bring there with these views, they constantly ignore that this is an ideology that needs to be fought back against. It seems like even if they're their neighbors, they just nope, nothing to see here. Anyways, Trump's. Oh, we're getting some live chat. Let me see. All right, let me just finish this question, and then I'll look at the live chat. From Dark Realms. Trump's Muslim ban. Wait, where was I? Okay, Trump's Muslim ban by targeting countries didn't address these concerns. Yeah, no, it really didn't, because what you did, you banned a whole bunch of scientists, a whole bunch of, I don't know, like people, the right people. I mean, such a blanket ban is not really addressing the issues, the people that you want to keep out, and also might keep out the people that might be able to come here and help address the ideological battles, like Ayaan Hirsi Ali, people that might need a free speech zone to be able to come and fight Islam. People from the area that know Islam will be credible speakers against it. They wouldn't be able to speak from there. They might, that would be, these are fantastic weapons to have against Islam, and you do need to give them a free speech zone for them to be able to do that. But okay, but is it possible or desirable to have some kind of ideology test for immigrants? Yeah, that would be very hard though, because ideological test would it be like? First of all, how I don't know how is that possible? Can they just lie? Also, like, is it going to be a religious test? Hi, Mike. All right, let me just before I address this, let me see what Dark Realm was saying on the live chat. Do you think Islam is compatible? Quote: Do you think Islam is compatible to Western values? I do not think it's compatible. Oh, yeah, that's me. Oh, you're quoting me. Thank you, Dark Realms. Yeah, I said, somebody asked me that if I think Islam is compatible to Western values, and I responded, I don't think it's compatible to our planet. And then a lot of people on the regressive left took that and said Armin wants to wipe out Muslims from the planet. What? I did. Okay, whatever. It doesn't matter what I say. People are just going to take that. And Dark Realms is saying best quote ever. Oh, thank you. Mike is here too. Okay, so how do I mean, here's the thing. The immigration issue is not as simple. It's really complicated, okay? It's really complicated. And it really depends from one country to another country. One type of immigration that I always support is when the country goes and actually shows that there's a certain type of skilled labor that their education system is not pumping out as many as they need. Let's say, for example, you need a specific type of engineer, and you're 1,000 short. and they just go out and say we need like 1,000 engineers with this specific qualifications to apply for work visa. And I think that's fantastic. I think that benefits everybody. They do know that there's a demand for it. By the way, how is the resolution, guys? Can you read this live chat off the screen, or is it too low? I had to reduce the quality because if the quality was too high, then the data coming in would be so much that there would be too much buffering going on. But I'm hoping that it's showing fine and it's readable on the screen. Anyways, so that's the type of immigration. I think it helps the taxpayer because you're bringing skilled labor that is addressing exactly what you need. You know, the taxpayer in the home country it's a pretty good screening tool as well, because people that spend a lot of time, becoming engineers, they studied, they're now applying to get a job, and there's the employers in the home country is also screening for them, to approve them. I think that's a pretty solid screening tool right there. When it comes to economic immigrants, that's the type of economic immigrants that I support. It helps the skilled labor person as well. That somebody needs their skills and they're being invited to go to that country because those skills are needed there. But the problem is that a lot of people are like, what now you're draining skilled labor from the home country. It's true, but at the same time, you can't expect individuals, So here's the thing: who are we when we're judging these things? Who are we thinking about? Because there's a whole bunch of different interest groups that we're thinking about, right? And so then, are we talking about economic immigrants, or are we talking about refugees that are running away from persecutions, right? So when it comes to economic refugees, then you have to think about three different entities that have interests here, right? The interest of the country that the immigrant is going to, the taxpayers are the taxpayers. The taxpayers have hired their government they're paying their government with their tax to look after their interests, right? So if that tax money is going towards, even if something is, worth morally the right thing to do, you can't do morally right things with other people's money, right? Like if I'm a CEO of a company, if I use a company's money to give to charity without the shareholders wanting to do so, even if it's moral, I should have done that with my money. I can't just take other people's money to do the same, to do that, right? So if a government thinks that something is moral and then all of a sudden brings a whole bunch of immigrants and then pays for their, what they eat and where they live, and they're now on government subsidy, you're like, well, that's a moral thing to do, yeah, but did you have these are other people's money? Did you have their permission to do that? Like, maybe if the taxpayers come and say like, yes, please go ahead and help these people, then yeah, but you can't do moral things that you find moral if you're the agent of somebody else. You can't do that in that capacity. You don't have the authority to do that, right? You can't become charitable with other people's money. You can be charitable with your own money. So you don't deserve a medal to take someone else's money and give it to charity. You didn't cost you anything. So if you have your taxpayers' permission, then maybe you could do that. But so when it comes, so that was the first one is the interest of the taxpayer of the home country. The second interest is the interest of the immigrant itself. Third interest is the interest of the country that the immigrant is leaving. So obviously, when it comes to the home country that the immigrant is going to, you have to ask, is the taxpayer okay with this, or are they benefit? Even if they're not okay, you don't have to ask their permission, because you can't just have a referendum for everything, right? At some point, the taxpayers, they voted for the elected officials, and they have to trust them with it. And if they fail, they could re-elect somebody else, right? That's theoretically how it works. But you have, as an agent of the taxpayer, you have to think, if is this in the best interest of the taxpayer, or if even if it's not in their best interest, is this something so morally important that they will support it, even if it costs them, right? Sometimes a whole country might be so moved by humanitarian crisis that yes, this has cost us, but it's okay. And as long as you think that's what they want, as an agent of the taxpayer, you can do that. So that's the first group. Then you have to talk about the home country. Then if you're taking skilled laborers away from that country, is it gonna the country that the immigrant is leaving? Is they going to suffer? You're taking away. They might need the skilled labor if they stayed there. That would be important to them. But then you have to ask, maybe if the immigrant that is leaving the country, if they make money in this country, in the country that they're going to, and send it back to their family, that how much does that help the country that they're sending money to? Or maybe if it's a short, I saw multiple studies. Some of them suggested that it's not that much. That money is not that important, and some countries suggest that it is very important. One country that makes a lot of money from workers that they send overseas is Philippines, and a lot of Filipinos leave Philippines and they send back. They make money and they send it back, a lot of money back home, which the Philippines economy depends on it, right? I don't know how accurate these studies are. Actually, don't quote me on this. But then at the same time, okay. And another thing is that people because of the issue of drainage of skilled worker, a lot of people support short-term immigration, so that they learn from the country that they get new skills from the country they went to, and then when they go back, they take these skills back to their home country. And it benefits both the country that they went to, and when they go back home, the new skills also ends up helping the country that they were in. But if you look at the immigrant himself or herself, it's really too much to expect this immigrant that is thinking about the livelihood of his or her children and wife or husband or mother or father, to be concerned about either the country that he or she is going to or leaving. I mean, some of you might be very nationalistic, but you can't really expect that from other people. I mean, if I'm thinking about the future of my child, I really might not give a shit about the drainage of skills from the country that I'm leaving, or the cost on the taxpayer in the country that I'm going to. And you might think that is selfish, but I mean, come on, if you look at your family, your priorities might be different from, other people. And I really don't think you can blame these people. I'm not saying that you should make policies based on the priorities of the immigrant itself, but the priorities are there, and, you can't really blame them for what they want. I'm getting some questions in the live chat. All right, but that's economic immigrants, and again, I think everybody, I think that. But let's go to the human rights immigration, like people that are escaping prosecution, right? Because I think that's where the most of the tension is. Because a lot of people, I think, when it comes to economic immigrants, a lot of people agree that if you have skilled laborers coming here. And if we need them, a lot of people say that we need them, so let's just bring them here. That's good, and they're already being screened for that, and it's really unlikely. I mean, nothing is impossible, but if somebody, the screening that you have for skilled labor is unlikely that these are going to be problematic people. When it comes to people that are now, there's two types of human rights kind of immigrants. Ones that are just leaving in masses because of a war kind of type situation in their country, and the other one are specific individuals that are specifically being targeted because of their views or ideas, right? And I think a lot of people support those bringing in specific individuals when they are specifically being targeted because of what they said or because of the political situation in the country, and the government is cracking, wanting to like execute them or imprison them, or they're in danger for mobs attacking them. I think because the reason why the support there is for that is because it's just like, the numbers on that is very low, so it's very unlikely. Like it's just one here, one there, and I've already seen the way that you have to. I mean, it's the for a lot of countries, what you have to go through to be able to get an asylum is so difficult. I mean, we have been trying to help some people, and it's not easy. You have to really actually prove that you're in danger. I know people that they were saying we're ex-Muslim. Please don't send me back to my country. And they were like, we don't know if you're actually in danger. We're going to send you back. So they had to actually burn his name was Omar from Egypt. He had to burn the Quran to prove, like, look, I just burned the Quran. If I go back, I'm fucking fucked. All right. So they're like, okay, fine, you can stay. Which was a big gamble, by the way. I think that a lot of people support that. Let me know if you disagree. Somebody is asking about the Second Amendment. I have to ask. Okay, let me just finish answering the Patron question. Maybe I'll get into that as well. Somebody is also asking me about Tommy Robinson in the live chat. Oh my god, I have to take a stance on these things right here. Okay, let me just answer these questions. Why is Harris's question being cut? Let me see if I could show his entire question. Just hold on. Bear with me for a second. Nope. Hold Alt. There we go. And maybe... There we go. Okay. I'm going to lock this so it doesn't move again. All right. So I do think there's a lot of people from both the right and the left that support that kind of immigrants because they're low in number and they already have a very hard time proving that they're in danger, and the numbers are so low in that it's not going to really affect the economy of your country. And you do want, I mean, you do need these people to come there and be advocates for why these values are wrong, right? Because if you want to fight this idea, you need people to come and speak and tell you what they experience, right? I left the worst for the last, right? I think the one that most people disagree on is when you have thousands of people showing up at your border because there's war in your country. And that's this toughest one. So we had three types for right now. We had the economic one. I think a lot of people could get behind having skilled labor when it's needed. Then you had the specific human rights issues, like targeted human rights violations of people that could prove that they're in danger. I think you could get a lot of support for that. The one that people seem to be very angry about, or some people support and some people don't, is that because now you have a whole bunch of people with different ideas and views. Not, it's not like they're ex-Muslim or liberal or Enlightenment values. They're just running away because bombs are being dropped on their heads, right? And then you have people like, well, of course we need to let these people in there because look what's happening to them. It's inhumane if you don't. And then you have people like, well, look at how many they are, and we don't know what these people believe in. And yeah, please, no. I mean, it's not our problem that their country is war-torn. I mean, I paid so much tax for... The government is taking my income away. So, in some of these European countries, so much of my income away to make this country, to supposedly make this country a better place for all of us. And now all of a sudden these people are coming in that haven't contributed anything, unlike me that have been paying taxes for years and years and years. And now these people are just moving in to take all the benefit. Like, what the hell? And I don't even know if all of them are actually in danger. Some of them are just coming here because they're just joining the rest of them because they're economic migrants. They're not really refugees that are in danger. They're just joining the rest of these people just to be able to come take advantage of the situation. And I really don't know how to answer that. I mean, it's not. I mean, if there was an easy answer to this would be. I mean, okay, so you have to understand that everybody here is to some extent right. I mean, the people that want the borders closed to all these masses of people, they're like, listen, I'm sorry what's happening to you, but we can't do this. I mean, I can't just open the border to everybody. That's gonna fuck up my country, right? And it's not. Some people say, well, what's the point of? I mean, then you're being selfish because a lot of people compare nationalism to religion, and like they say, why you deserve to have the benefits from your country? You were just lucky enough to be born there. Why should you be able to live in peace, and all these people just because they were unlucky to be born on the other side of this border? I mean, a lot of people say that we, for example, in this so and so country, we earned it, we worked hard for this, so that's why we deserve to live like this, and those countries are responsible for their own problems. Some people come and say like, oh no, imperialism, this is our fault, but I don't want to get into that. I mean, even if this is true, the thing is that how many of us individually are responsible for the problems or the benefit or the greatness of the country that we're born in? Like, we were most of it happened before we were even born. Like, we were individually not really responsible for any of that. So the argument that we just got lucky or unlucky is a valid one. But at the same time, so what? I mean, the person that is living in that country doesn't want the fact that they don't want their country to fall behind and suffer from all this is even if they got lucky for it, the fact that they don't want to lose it is also a legitimate point. See, this is why I don't know. This is very complicated, right? Another point that people bring up is that why does it have to be our country if these people are actually leaving the war-torn country because they're unsafe there? Why can't they go to Turkey or Saudi Arabia or Iran? Why do they have to pick the best countries? The fact that they're picking the best countries show that they want something more than just freedom and safety. They want also the countries that pay for their lives and the countries that will basically house them and feed them. But then the counter argument to that is, well, these countries are, I mean, Iran and Saudi Arabia are not really opening their doors, are they? I mean, Turkey is, Lebanon is more than its fair share. So people are like, but some people are like, why does this have to be our problem? Why can't it be someone else's problem? But, I mean, everybody is being logical if you look at their own interests. I mean, the immigrants are being logical because if they're looking into their own best interest, and the people from their home country, from these countries that also are kind of being, they have very good points. I mean, you can't tell them that they're evil. Oh, wow, thank you for the super chat, Matt Heather. I mean, $4 and with the comment, I love you, man. Oh, thank you, that's very sweet. Anyways, I do think that this is very complicated, and I'm sorry if I don't have a straight answer to this question. I do think that you can't point to the other side that is disagreeing with you and either call them, I think, that not recognize where they're coming from. I think if we want to come up with answers, the people that are disagreeing, you have to see their points are somewhat valid, whatever your view is. The other side, you can't accuse them of being monsters or inhumane or people that are just taking over your country, opening the borders because it's a white genocide. I don't know what the arguments are, but you can't accuse them of those being their arguments. Both sides have valid points, and I do think. Oh wow, another super chat. Thank you, Nus. What? Nusantara Rising. Thank you so much. I'm gonna read the comment that is highlighted from the super chat. Religion belongs to the human being. The state cannot have a religion. Imam Ayad. Imam Ayad Jamaluddin. Oh wow, okay. People hate West influence. Expect West to accommodate. Okay, I think the message here is that people that usually blame everything on the West are also saying West. The West should accommodate them. So I think you're pointing out that there's a hypocrisy here. But okay, let's like I said, let's put ourselves from their side as well. The people that are saying this, they're saying the West should accommodate because of their negative influence around the world. And I don't actually buy that argument, because the West has had a lot of positive role in the world. So yeah, that's a good point that you brought up. And that's a counter argument to it, and I don't agree with the counter argument. I mean, I always tell people, like, everybody brings up the examples that they like to highlight their arguments. For example, they point out to the number of people that has been killed by United States in wars and stuff, which is actually good to bring up. But another thing to bring up is the number of countries that United States, for example, has. United States is the country that is always there first when there's a natural disease or when there's a disease outbreak or a natural disaster. It's always the first country to show up there. And it's always the last country to leave. In countries that it has no interest in. When there was a storm in the Philippines, it was United States mostly that was helping people there. When there was, even in Iran, I remember when I was a kid, there was a earthquake in Bam in Iran, and there was so many people died from that, and it was the United States that showed up there in the country of its enemy, helping people, giving aid to people. Again, when you're talking about countries, you can't label them as good or evil, because there's so many different entities and there's so many different influence makers in each one of these countries, making decisions, and they all have different interests, some of them good, some of them bad. You can't say Israel good, Israel bad, Palestine good, Palestine bad, United States good, United States bad, Iran good or bad. You have to look at who you're talking about, which interest groups you're talking about within this country, how much power do they have, what is their interests. There are competing interests within each one of these countries, and they all have their own agenda. So you can't just label an entire country as good or bad. You have to specify who you're talking about and which act. Even if you're talking about specific people, sometimes you have to even be more specific. You need to talk about which specific action you're talking about, because sometimes it's the same person or the same interest groups makes different good decisions and bad decisions. Yeah, but again, I really don't have a good answer for what to do with the large number of migrants when it comes to as a response to wars or something like that. Unfortunately, I do one if you can't get the two camps together. I really don't know. I have to think about this a little bit more. But I don't know if I'm not arrogant enough to say that if I think about it, I'm going to come up with an answer, because I know better people than me have thought about this, and the answers are not okay. Here's the thing: the people that think that this is there's no question we have to open our borders because this is a humanitarian crisis, and we can't be selfish, and we can't just want things for ourselves. You have to look at the other side and think about it's completely understandable that a family thinks about his or her own, a person thinks about his or her own family more than other people. I mean, as much as you might think that's not logical and that's not should be the case, it is. I mean, it's I'm gonna say it's natural, not because I'm gonna make it a natural fallacy and say that everything that is natural that is good. No, that's not the case. But everything that is natural is hard to change. This is part of our nature. Of course, I'm gonna care about my kids and my wife more than people that I haven't met. It's just part of my nature. You can't change that, right? So, your argument, I mean, I'm a utilitarianist, so I do agree that we have to care about people regardless of where they come from and what race they have. It doesn't really, that shouldn't matter. But when it comes to practice, it's really hard for you not to get, not to care about the future of your own children more than some other people's children, right? So you have to try to see that you have to bring, if you're introducing a policy that is really going to damage the future of their children, you have to see why they would not accept that, no matter how much the humanitarian crisis needs addressing. And also from the other side, the people that are suggesting that we should completely close the borders because who the fuckers. I mean, actually, no, that's not what they're saying, to be honest. Let me be more charitable to their position. The position is like, yes, I know these people are in trouble and that's a tragedy, but my family comes first. My people, not my people, my family, because I don't really agree with if you say my people. I mean, come on, now you're going to defend people that you don't even know because they happen to be born in the same borders that you were born in. That doesn't make even emotional sense. I mean, biologically we have been hardwired to care about mostly 150 people. I think that was the number. So saying like, oh, people of my country deserve more than other people, I think that's absolute bullshit. But if you say my children, my family, my friends deserve, I care about them more. Not that they deserve more. I just care about them more. I see that. I mean, that's part of your nature, and it is really hard to shake that off. But to say that these other people that want the borders open, you have to try to see their arguments, okay? Because you can't say that, because I see both sides try to paint the other side as completely evil, and then this is a very extreme position from the other side. They think that the people that want the borders open, this is an intentionally doing this to change the nature of the country, okay? And change the demographics of the country, to get more votes from the people that they're letting in, to get more political power. And that might be true, but you also have to address the people with the best arguments from the other side. And the people with the best argument on their side is that, how could you think these people deserve this? How could you think that they should suffer just because they were born on the other side of this border? What if you were born on the other side of this border? Let me see. What is this? There's another question in the live chat, I think. It's also the West that gets involved in energy in every single conflict on Earth. Okay, so Huda is saying, as in the live chat, is saying, is also the West that gets involved in every single conflict on Earth. Bring their soldiers, bomb people, and overthrow governments. What else are they expecting? Yeah, I mean, that's another side of the coin. But the thing is with that, Huda, is, okay, so Mike is responding to Huda. Mike is saying, Huda, the thing is that so-called West has enough of fighting locally between each other and want to stop the mess before it comes too close. Is it good or bad? I don't know. Here's the thing. This is not just the West. Every country would intervene in countries other than its own if it could, if they saw a national interest in it. No country on Earth would stop at making decisions when it reaches its borders. Every country that could do something outside of its borders does something outside of its borders. Because to influence its interests internationally, right? Iran does that. Saudi Arabia does that. Every country in Europe does that. Philippines does that. Indonesia does that. The reason why we notice it more from the U.S. is because they have more influence. They're a superpower, so it's going to be more. And I think any other superpower would behave the same way. In fact, it might have intervened in a worse way. If you think about the United States as a superpower, we might have gotten actually a bit lucky because and Europe also is because they have taken in they're very highly influenced by the values that came to us through the Enlightenment. And if that wasn't there, imagine if China. Imagine if China was the world superpower, they wouldn't give a shit about a lot of the. United States as a country, its political and military institutions. The only reason why they care about human rights is because there's a lot of powerful human rights groups. It's not that they naturally care about human rights. It's just because human rights organizations have become very influential in the United States and the European countries. And that's a good thing, and I wish they were even more influential. I don't think they're influential enough. And the reason why they're influential is because the values of the Enlightenment, not as a lot of people try to make you believe, has nothing to do with Judeo-Christian values. This is specifically because of the values of the Enlightenment, Enlightenment era. Because of the influence of that, a lot of people adopted these values, and that's why human rights organizations do have some influence on what people and how people vote and what people make pressure their politicians to do. This is not because these governments are naturally humanistic. And because they're not designed to be. Military industries and governments are not designed to be naturally humanist. They're just naturally designed to some extent reflect the will of their people, and because of the will of the people being affected some by the Enlightenment movement, we got lucky with the superpower. I'm not defending everything United States does. Obviously, they made a lot of good decisions and a lot of bad decisions, but I do think that if the superpower was the Soviet Union, or if the superpower was China, we would have seen a lot less care for human rights. Yes, the United States, it doesn't have a clean record. Again, doesn't have a clean record. They have committed lots of human rights violations, but you have to admit there is when you constantly trying to come up with missiles that takes away sites without having collateral damage, it's a lot of money. These are things that is such a high priority because United States is a superpower. If it was other countries, I don't think there would be that much of a emphasis on it. Again, I keep avoiding the Patron question, because I feel like I don't have an answer to it. I do think it's difficult. I do think the answer to it is very difficult. Let me see what people are saying in the live chat. So Harris is saying there is no quote-unquote West as a whole. If you cannot see the modern humanistic values introduced by the West, then I would say you seriously need to start your study on the West again. Huda is saying, but who's financing them? Who's the West? I think Huda is responding to who's financing them. Who's financing? Oh, I think they're talking about Iran or Saudi Arabia. I don't think. Yeah. Harris, I know you. Harris was responding to Huda. Huda, do you think that Huda seems to be suggesting, and correct me if I'm wrong, Huda, that most of the problems from the world is coming from the West. Do you think that these countries that are war torn and having these problems, do you think they are responsible for any of their own problems, or do you think all their problems comes from the interventions from Western intervention? Um, Huda is saying, I'm not denying their modern humanistic values or cultural contribution to the world. Okay, that's good. That doesn't make my point invalid. Which I think you made a couple of points. Let me see which point you're saying. Yeah. I mean, can you summarize your point, Huda? Is your point that they shouldn't be intervening in these other countries? Because I don't think that's a reason. I don't think that's something that it's reasonable to ask. I might be misrepresenting your point, so let me know if I'm misrepresenting your point. Because, like I said, every country in the world would intervene in other countries if they could, right? There is, if you're sitting inside your house and your house is in the middle of a forest and you see some trees catching fire, and you say, well, I'm not going to get out until unless the fire reaches the house. Well, if you did get out and put out the fire, it might have never got into your house. Now when it gets close to your house, the fire is so big that there's no way for you to put it out, right? Or maybe your neighbor's house is on fire, and then you go try to put it out, and your neighbor is like, why are you intervening in my house? You just crossed the fence. This is my house. You're in my territory. Get the fuck out. And you're like, yeah, but if I didn't put it out, your house would caught fire, and my house would have caught fire as well. So I just made a decision without asking your permission, right? I mean, sometimes it's the right thing to do, sometimes it's not the right thing to do. You have to really specifically look at the specific situation to judge it. I don't think there's a blanket answer for whether intervention is right or wrong. There are some interventions. I mean, United States has and the West. United States had a very good track record of intervening during until I guess the Cold War happened. Before Vietnam and Cambodia, United States was recognized for saving Europe. And Japan. Some countries that are kind of thankful from United States interventions are France, Germany, and even Japan. And this is a country that they dropped 2 atomic bombs on. They're now a U.S. ally. Everything that happened after, which was continued intervention, made Japan into a superpower now, semi-superpower, I think, and a true ally to the United States, a very powerful ally. If that kind of intervention could have made other countries very powerful. These are countries that you turn these countries that used to be your enemies into not just allies, but allies that are very powerful, and allies that the more powerful you get, the more the mutual benefits between your two countries are. And that's the kind of intervention that this shows that there are some interventions that are worth having. But anyways, I think I got sidetracked from the main question. Let me just see what else in the live chat there is. Indonesia has had heaps of Western intervention, but we are doing fine. Why? Because we are not a religious country. Our constitution is Pancasila, secularism. We are the leader of the Ummah in human Okay, but is there a danger in Indonesia right now? Isn't it getting a bit more Islamic? Is that a danger? Because I'm hearing a lot of reports that Indonesia might be losing it. But let me know if Indonesia, not yet, but there's dangers of the rise of Islamic groups in Indonesia. And yeah, I do know that the United States intervened in Indonesia, and Indonesia did benefit from that. And Harris is saying, Huda, you would have loved U.S. when U.S. intervened and helped Bosnia, ? Huda is saying, of course these countries are messed up. I'm not going to put everything on the West's back and de-responsibilize. Is that a word? If that's not a word, that's a very great invention. The countries in the middle of war, though, they're the ones feeling it. Harris, I wasn't even born when they started and have no knowledge about Bosnia's situation. JTHBS is saying a few countries like Great Britain, France, US are playing world police. Countries where questionable presidents have too much power. While most of Western countries try to develop things without weapons. I'm not sure what that point is being made there. So regarding Indonesia, the comment is if you are, I think they're talking about me, if I am referring to the blasphemy trial of Ahok, this is funded by Wahhabi Saudi clerics. We deported the leader of the movement to Saudi, but our president couldn't intervene in the trial. I know that, but do you think that was that the only thing, or because what I've heard, and I could be wrong, is that in Indonesia, Muslim groups and Muslim, not just Muslim, like fundamentalist Wahhabi Muslims are getting more control slowly, and they're becoming more influential and more powerful, and more politicians have to take their votes seriously. Is that the case? Harris is saying, don't forget to talk about your views on Tommy Robinson. Oh my goodness. I was trying to avoid that. Okay, no, just kidding. I need something to disagree with you on. All right, well, let me go back to your question. Where was your question regarding Tommy Robinson? See, if you use the super chat function, then it would be highlighted and I would be able to find it. Let me see. Where is it? Tommy. Where is the question? Oh, it has this showed up here. I'm going to remove this. How did this move over to here? I didn't move it. I think I just pressed the view. Can you copy and paste the question? Because I can't seem to find it. Maybe if I select this and then Control F. No, see, when I press Control F, this thing moves. Okay, here. Thank you, Harris, for copying and pasting the question. Oh my God, this is gonna get me into trouble. Okay, Harris, I hold you responsible for losing friends. I'm aware of Ali's views on Tommy Robinson, but I'm not sure about your views, Armin. I have found my views and approach very similar to you. What are your views on Tommy Robinson? Is he a racist? Okay. Jesus. Okay. So, all right. So okay. Here's the thing, but from the people that are listening to this, just let me. I'll tell you, I'm willing to change my views on this. This is why I don't like commenting on people. I don't like commenting about specific people. I like talking about ideas. You could just give me an idea, and I'm always like, okay, I think this idea is shit, and this idea is good. And then when you talk about a certain person, then I have to comment about a whole bunch of views that this person represents, right? And I don't want to be endorsing or condemning them, because then if I endorse them, whatever bullshit they come up with in the future or in the past that I didn't notice, now I'm endorsing that. And if I condemn them, they might have done a lot of good things that are valuable, and now I'm also grouping all of that shit into the in the thing, and people are like, how could you say something about this great person? You know how much they contributed? Have you ever contributed this much? Maybe shut the fuck up, and until you contribute this much, don't comment about them, right? So again, you know how I said you can't just label countries as good or bad, and you can't just say this country is good or this country is bad, because countries come with different, a lot of different interest groups within the country, and some of them are good, some of them are bad, and you have to judge them individually, right? So you have to specifically mention something he said or a position that he had, and I could specifically comment. Let's talk about things we can work on, please. Okay, Ruby is saying don't. Ruby is asking me not to comment on this. Tell your truth, so don't. You are right. Move on. Let's talk about things. Yeah, I think it's not good to categorically say somebody is good or bad, or somebody is doing, saying something right or wrong, or if they're racist. Yeah, you could. First of all, is somebody a racist? I have no fucking idea. I'm not in their head, right? If they have to make it really, really fucking obvious that they're racist, you can't just take their words and be like, well, this could be interpreted this way or that way. That means they're racist. Just I could say if that specific statement was either worded maybe not very well, maybe if they're not a racist, then what they said sounded racist, so maybe they should think about how they talk next time. But I rather talk about specific views. So if you actually mention something he said or a position that he has, then I could judge that rather than Ruby is saying let us not judge others. Just judge yourself. I mean, I don't know, Ruby. I think you can judge specific positions that people are taking, right? Or specific statements that people are making. I don't see anything wrong with judging. I just don't think like making a blanket judgment about one person, because a person has many different positions and views, and you can't just pass a judgment on all of that together. Yeah, I think you have to be specific about a certain position. Harris, is that like a very unsatisfying answer to you? Let me see what other people are saying. We got some information about Indonesia. Let me just really quickly go over that. So Front Pembela Islam is a threat to secularism, but it would be hard to convince national referendum. Islam is is divided between traditional and modernist. Traditionals put Indonesian culture before Ummah, saying that Islam must correspond to circumstances in which it occurred. They are the majority. Okay, but be careful with Indonesia, because that's what people thought in Iran, that these mullahs will never become like people that were when Iran before the Islamic Revolution. Nobody would have ever guessed that Islam would have such a strong comeback like it did. People thought the era of Islamic influence in the politics with Ataturk and Reza Shah was over. People thought Islam is just now a cultural thing where people practice in their home. Nobody ever thought that Islam will have such a powerful comeback in the Middle East like it did after the 1979 revolution. So be careful. Don't think like these things will never happen. People are wrong that they think Indonesia is 80%. Okay, let me see. JTHBS is saying, I meant that most of the countries in the West, like Switzerland, Germany, Poland, Sweden, Canada, etc., help other countries to develop in all kinds of aspects, education, etc., without waging war. Okay, Ruby. So now let's see what people. Let's go back to Tommy Ramos. Sorry, I had to really address those very fast. It depends on who we're. So Mike is saying it depends on who he's talking to. When he just rant randomly, then you can see his true face. I don't know, Mike. I'm not very good at reading people. I'd rather just maybe you're better than me at that. I'd just rather just judge a statement as it stands and see if it's right or wrong. Harris. Okay, Harris. Okay, let me narrow it down. The latest video about Sadiq Khan that Ali shared, I think it was a gross misrepresentation of Tommy's positions. What do you specifically think about that? I do think that if he, I kind of agree with you. By the way, Ali, if you're listening, hi, please don't hate me on this. I do think, I mean, but I don't know actually. Here's the thing: if like why is Tommy? If you really listen to what he's saying, it doesn't seem racist, but he must know. I mean, I don't know actually. If a person as smart as he is should know. If he doesn't, he should know what words like invasion. Here's the thing. But the thing is that people accuse me of using words like this without being careful as well. And I always think like you can't be too careful, because then you can't even say a single fucking sentence if you're always constantly thinking about, I mean, can I use the word fight without sounding like I'm being violent? Like, you know, people say fight a disease. But here's the thing. He just basically... So let's put it in context. Correct me if I'm wrong. This is how I remember it. So he said that this is not your country, okay? And people are like, whoa, you're saying this is not your country because he's a Muslim? But then if you listen to the whole thing, then it seems like he's responding to the fact that he's making a decision for the entire country, and that's why he's saying this is not your country. So this is not your country as in you're not British. This is not your country as if this is not just your country. Like, you can't just make decisions for the entire country, right? You don't own this country. So it sounds completely different, right? So if you watch the entire video and what he's responding to, it might sound like he's not saying that you're not a citizen of this country because you're a Muslim. It's more sounds like you just made a decision on behalf of all of us. Was he talking about the entire country or just the city? Just because you're a mayor, that doesn't mean you can make these decisions on behalf of all of us. If you can't just say that so and so is not welcome in this country. Who are you to decide this? So right. And then he used the word. He said that you're part of this invasion. And again, because he's Muslim, because people say like, okay, so he's a Muslim, you're accusing him of invading your country, right? Am I summarizing this correctly? Because I watched the video a while back, I don't remember all the details. So you're saying like, oh, you're accusing your own mayor as of a Muslim invasion because he's Muslim, right? Let me read what people are saying. Can we stop calling him Tommy? His real name is Stephen. I don't know. People know him as Tommy Robinson, so I'm going to call him the name that people recognize. I didn't even know his name is Stephen. Okay, Ruby saying he also explained that Mr. Mayor was a very close compatriot with a leader of a terrorist group. Oh, did he? Before he became mayor. Well, is that... okay. And what are your thoughts on that, Ruby? Okay, so Taz Kid Noha is saying, no, Tommy believes Anglos are only citizens of UK. Okay, if he knows that, if he thinks, if that's his position, well, that's bullshit. I just don't know if that's his position. Is that really his position? If that's a position, that's a position that I'm very much against. See, it's easier to do it like this. This makes it very easy. If Tommy Robinson was saying only if he was telling the Sadiq Khan that this is not just your country, this is all of our countries, that's why you can't have a decision like this. And if he was saying this is you're part of an invasion, not as an outsider, but as an insider trying to change the demographic of the countries, even if that's bullshit, then you could be like, okay, it's not racist, but that's a really poor choice of words. Maybe like rethink how you phrase things. But if he actually meant it, so see, you could actually put conditions on your position. But if he actually meant that, oh no, Sadiq Khan is not a citizen because he's a Muslim, well then that's I think it's not racist is not the right word. Bigoted is the right word, and illogical is the right word, right? So you could put you could put condition. You could make your judgments conditional based on the what the intentions were. If you don't know the intentions, then you make your judgments conditional on what because you can't read minds, right? Harris is saying, I don't think that's his position. Well, you guys, how are you guys so are you guys sure that that's his position? Like, you guys seem to be sure on one way or another. Like, why can't you just make judgmental judgments based on conditions? If you meant this, then I'm against it. If you didn't mean these, then I'm all for it. Wow, another super chat. Mamnoon Mamnoon means thankful for answers. Wait, Mamnoon. Oh wait, this is showing up a little bit weird. Countries Mamnoon for answers. Okay, now I see how it's working. So it means thankful for your answers, and then the comment is saying countries with pre-existing culture seem to be more secularable. Like the Cyrus of the Persian culture. I think the order that this chat is showing is a little bit weird. Arabs only have Islamic culture. I am a little bit worried about this whole Zoroastrianism having a comeback in Iran. It does seem to go in the same direction as the religious Hindu right-wing religious people in India using Hinduism as a way to go back to the roots and suggest an ethno-state, as a way. So when a lot of the right-wing people are afraid, when they're afraid of their countries changing too fast, sometimes instead of fighting ideas, they want to go back to turn it into a battle of identities and use their race and ethnicity as an identity, as a tool to battle the changes that are happening in their countries. And the thing is that sometimes these people use ancient religions as a way to make their identity and their ethnic identity more significant, and give it, because they do think that religion is a big part of that, and they think that the religion that is coming in and invading their culture could be fought back with a different religion and culture, and they go back to look at what they were before this religions came in and try to. They have a romanticized view of what these cultures and religion was before, and Iran is doing that with Cyrus and Zoroastrianism, and they glorify it, and they say that Islam is the religion of the Arabs, and these barbaric Arabs came and ruined this beautiful Persian empire that was so this and that, and we need to go back to our roots. We're Iranians. They say that a lot of these people say that Iran is only for Aryans, and the Persians are an Aryan race, and Iran needs to only have. Everything needs to be Persian in Iran. So some of them don't even use Arab words. Iranian language has a lot of Arab words mixed into it, but they say that's happened because of the Arab invasion, and they refuse to use it. So some of them don't even say salam. They say durud because they refuse to use Arabic words. And then they say like the religion of Iran and the Aryan race is Zoroastrianism, and they want to go back to that, even though most of them have no fucking clue what Zoroastrianism teaches and stands for. They just use it as a symbol of nationalism. I don't think fighting religion with nationalistic or racist ideas is helpful, and unfortunately, a lot of these nationalist Zoroastrians in Iran seem to think that a lot of Muslims in Iran that are now considering other views some of them are considering atheism, some of them are considering Christianity, and they're going to them and saying, why are you, if you want to fight Arab imperialism, why are you going to Western ideologies? Go back to your roots, go back to Zoroastrianism. And they say atheism is a Western concept, a product apparently, just like Christianity. And they say don't do anything un-Iranian, do Zoroastrianism, which is actually is a big trend right now in Iran. Let me see. Here, okay, so Harris is saying, here's why I think we shouldn't shut him down. Harris, I don't even think we should shut him down even if he is a racist or a bigot, let alone if he's not. We claim that Westerners don't support ex-Muslims, but they do. We start labeling them racist. Yeah, I mean, okay, so Harris, first of all, a lot of people support ex-Muslims, and they have some of them have very good views, some of them have a lot of questionable views, and I think you could acknowledge and thank people that are supporting ex-Muslims, even if they have other questionable views. I don't know if their motives are bad, and I don't know. I mean, you could acknowledge that, yeah, thank you for giving ex-Muslims a platform, even though your agenda is kind of weird. But you're saying we shouldn't shut him down. You're saying we shouldn't shut him down because he's not a racist. But I really do think that we shouldn't be shutting him down even if he was a racist. The thing didn't work. What thing didn't work? Oh, yes, I know. This when you mix Arabic and Persian text with English text, sometimes it just jumps all over the place. That's why I had a hard time reading it. But I think I understood what you meant. Okay, Harris, we can only go by what people say publicly. Yeah, I agree with you, Harris. And I haven't yet seen anything Tommy Robinson that he has said that could be undeniably, without a question, racist. I haven't seen him say. There are a lot of things that could be like, well, if you read it this way, I don't know if you meant it like that, but if you did mean it like that, that's fucking racist. And this is a lot of people have a problem with, people like me, because they say, well, these are intentionally designed not to sound racist. Racist people sometimes say racist things that they could deny it. So it's like a dog whistle kind of thing. So they say, like, you say, well, this is not racist because it could mean like this, but then people that are against you and me, they were like, yeah, it's not racist, but it's obviously designed to make racist people follow you and be your fan. You know, you say something in a way that if you analyze it, you're like, okay, fine, it's not racist, but then it has some language in it and some words in it that makes racist people excited and follow you. And that's what the accusation is sometimes, I think. And the people that say that, they say it's by design. But I agree with you that I haven't seen anything that you could point to and be like, maybe he has said it that I haven't seen, that you could be like, this is undeniably, without a doubt, racist, okay? Huda, you can't know what he actually meant or believes unless he said it himself. We can't just draw conclusions out of it and assume things. I agree with you, Huda, on that. JTHBS, European countries are cultural nations, not immigration nation like the USA. The common culture is the source of identity and concerns the society. I really don't like culture as a source of identity. I really like ideas as a sort of identity, because cultures are harder to edit and change, and sometimes as time changes you constantly need to change your practices. And I really think ideas that are based on logic and based on understanding of how the world works are better ways. And ideas are a better source of identity. People that are have the same ideas that you are much more similar to you than people with the same religion, culture. I mean, religion is an idea, so forget idea. I mean, even it's a bad idea, you have more in common with people with the same ideas than people with the same culture, history, ethnicity. And I think ideas are way more powerful to use as a source of identity, because you can just constantly change it and edit it based on new situations. The problem with ideas like religion is that they're also not editable. But I don't really like culture as a source of identity. I think ideas are a better way to make nations and organizations and any kind of groups on. I mean, a culture is not as I mean, the worst source of identity is religion, I think, even though I do admit that religion is powerful because it's, you know, an idea and everybody is welcomed in it, like Christianity and Islam at least. So it's a very powerful source of identity, but it's also one of the most destructive ones. Ideas like enlightenment values are both powerful and positive. Apologies, I am struggling to follow this thread. Am I misunderstanding what you're saying? You are surprised that Tommy from the EDL may have said something racist. Well, I mean, I'm not denying that he said something racist or confirming it. I do know he left the EDL because he found it too racist, or am I wrong about that? Tell me, because that's what I heard. Jay, don't hold me to these views, by the way. If I'm wrong, correct me and I will change my views. JTHBS is saying it's a good thing to preserve the own diversity and richness of your own culture. Yeah, again, I don't know. Culture, what's your inherent culture? It's not something I think culture is, I think if it's, here's what I like about culture. Culture is good as a good source of entertainment and enjoyment, art, poetry, music, all that nice stuff. You could preserve, I think it's a good thing to preserve that and enjoy it. Food, right? When you say culture like that, then I'm all for that type of culture. But when culture is used as a guide to how to behave and what to do, that's fucked up. I think that's kind of like religion, and I think the reason why that's dangerous for a culture is because there's no proof that that's the best thing to do. It's just you're just doing it because your ancestors did that. Like why? So? Culture as a source of entertainment and enjoyment of life, all for that. Culture as a way on how to behave and a guide to life. It's kind of like getting close to religion in my view. Hoda is saying, would you apply that? Okay, Hoda is mentioning that. I don't know, she's responding to something else, so I'm not going to read that. Test Kid Noha says, we are changing the topic. Secular jihadist Tommy makes money for us playing. Okay, so, all right. But what's the topic should be on right now? I think we already addressed the main topic. Let's call him by his name. For us playing in circle. Tommy makes I don't know how Tommy makes money. Okay, let's change the topic if you guys want to change the topic. Steven, the guy has no idea, and his hate to Muslims comes from his ex girlfriend cheating on him. Okay, these are things that I don't know. If you know something, I can't judge things by what I don't know. By the way, thank you for tagging Secular Jihadist when you're speaking, because that really makes me not miss something if you want me to read it. Wow, this got into much more than what I thought it would be. What are your thoughts on Imam Muhammad Tawhidi? Oh my god. I just said in one of the Q&As, guys, I need to end this soon. Let me just try to... Imam Tawhidi has some views that I find very... I mean, again, I don't want to judge and I don't make a blanket statement on somebody. I do think that a lot of his views are... I do think he is misrepresenting Islam. And I do think a lot of his suggestions are anti-enlightenment values and anti-democratic and anti what is it called, due process, and anti all that. At the same time, I'm hoping he does seem to suggest that he might be willing to listen and change his views on these things. I don't know. He does. I do think that Muhammad Tawhidi, Imam Tawhidi, he seems to be, his position seems to be, a lot of his positions, and I don't know all of his positions, seem to be anti-Muslim and pro-Islam. And I think I'm the exact opposite. We are very anti Islam, and we're not against Muslims. So that's the summary of that. My friends think that he's a Shia conspiracy. He's also said some uncomfortable things. I mean, he does criticize a lot of Sunni hadith and not Shia hadith. So that, I don't know if that's by design or not. What about Egypt? I think that's a conversation. Guys, okay, I'm gonna leave now because I think I committed more. This was supposed to be just answering the Patron question, but it turned into much bigger because you guys are asking a lot of good questions. Harris is saying, I think we should commend Tommy. He left the EDL, the organizations he created, only because he had turned into a racist organization. Okay. And love you. So we agree on Tommy Armin. Oh my God, really? He hasn't said anything that I am aware of that is inherently racist in nature. Okay, Harris, nothing that okay, and I love you for it. Thank you, Harris. Nothing that I know of, nothing that I've heard so far. Okay, and I know I'm gonna get so much shit. Thank you, Harris. You brought a lot of shit. You brought a lot of. I'm gonna get in trouble. Thank you. Again, if Tazkid Noah, if you know something that I don't know, then I can make judgments based on things that I don't know. But I hope even if we disagree, we can do it peacefully and in a friendly way. Okay, I'm gonna just address this last one by how do you say your name? Nusantra Rising. Thank you for tagging secular judges. This makes it easier now. Okay, so I'm good. This is the last one that I'm gonna address. Here, or she's saying Ummah needs a response to its failings. Ummah. I mean, Ummah needs to fail. Qutb's writings called for a modernization without westernizations. Should we all become Westerns? Need to look to past culture or Islam? We don't need westernization. I think we need humanization. I think these Enlightenment values, I have a problem calling it Western values because I think they're inherently good values that could be adopted anywhere. I mean, the fact that they were adopted in the West first, I mean, these values were mentioned way before the Enlightenment, many places around the world. But to be fair, it was in Europe they were first practiced in such a wide scale and thought about and written about in such a scale in Enlightenment era. So that's why a lot of people call it Western values, and I guess you can if you want, but I do suggest calling it Enlightenment values so that a lot of people don't see it as a foreign invasion, because these are inherently good values. They don't belong to the West. And I don't think you need to look back at Islam or history or culture to adopt these values. These values are objectively helpful, and you only need logic, not history, not your identity, nothing like that, to see the reason behind why they are good values to adopt in your countries. And I think emphasizing on reasons like culture and history and identity as a marketing strategy for people to adopt ideas is dangerous, because one day you're going to get good values, another day the same arguments could be used to bring back shitty, dangerous values. Yeah, I think that's about it. There's just here's a question in the comment, but not a question, so I'm going to read it. Pranav is saying, to everyone who thinks culture is something noble and needs to be promoted, it's as dangerous as religion. Look at India. It's dangerous like religion. I don't know if it's as dangerous as religion. Religion it's similar to religion. So, but I think religion has been able to prove itself a lot more destructive just because it doesn't have any culture. At least it has some chains to it, because you can't just be like go to people without the history of your culture and get them to follow your culture. It's harder. There's more barriers to getting people to adopt your culture. Religion is like an unchained dragon that just flies as wide and far as everywhere as it can and just sets everything on fire. As you know, so yeah, I agree with you that culture could be a dangerous tool to adopt harmful ideas, but I don't think it's as bad as religion. Religion is just has no limits to how fast it could take over. I mean, just look at Iran, look at Turkey, look at Saudi Arabia, look at. I mean, there's so many. I mean, even throughout the Christian histories, the amount of things changed overnight, over a few years. In Spain, for example, when I don't know, I don't know if there's anything is as powerful, but I do agree with you that culture could be as destructive. B just saying if culture becomes nationalism, then it's destructive. I don't know. Sometimes it's still destructive, even if it doesn't get mixed with nationalism. I mean, there's a culture of, I mean, the culture of the purity culture, the culture of. There's a lot of things cultural. I mean, there's nothing in Islam that says that you have to throw acid in women's faces but it got, I mean, Islam okay, let me not give any excuses to Islam. A lot of these cultural things are influenced by Islam, and a lot of times people are asking like, oh, this shit happened here, is that Islam or is it culture? And then sometimes it's like, it's kind of both, because Islam influences culture and culture influences Islam. But I do agree with you, Bij, that culture, if it does get mixed with nationalism, it has a higher staying power, and it's really harder to clean it off and get rid of it and convince people that it's not a good idea to keep, because people's nationalism is now as an excuse, because people see it, the culture, as a way to keep to fight any threats to their national identity. So even if it's a bad idea, they might want to keep it just as a tool for resistance. So I do agree, when you mix with culture with nationalism, and it becomes more destructive. And the most destructive one of them all is when you mix nationalism, culture, and religion and ethnicity all together, right? And that becomes, a monster with four heads, and becomes very powerful. And the examples of that is Hindu nationalism in India, and now maybe a rise of Zoroastrianism, Aryan anti-Arab racism in Iran. Again, so I know a lot of Iranians are going to hate me for saying this. And also, another similar, smaller version of that is the white nationalists that go back to, they use Viking ideology as a way to go back to the past and use your ancient religions as a way to claim back your identity. Anyways, I'm going to go. Thank you, guys. This was fun. Yeah, so if you're not a patron, please consider becoming a patron. I'm going to take patron questions from our and sometimes showcase it here and address the questions that our patrons ask. So please consider becoming a patron of Secular Jihadists. The link is in the description. B just saying thank you, Armin. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Mike is saying thanks. Live long and prosper. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Huda. Thank you, Taskit Noha, Pranav, and Nusantra Rising, Harris, Taskit Noha, I already said, Harris, JT, HBS, everybody else that I forgot to mention. You guys are all awesome. Please don't hate me if I disagree with you. And khayli mamnoon. Wow, you speak Persian? Or you're using Google Translate? Sorry for just finding out you were on. And you're welcome, bro. Oh, thank you. That's sweet. See, we all could disagree and get alike. Good night, Hada. It's afternoon here, but yeah. Oh, I didn't notice if. By the way, sorry if I didn't check the live chat on Facebook. Oh wow, George was talking a lot on Facebook. I should have read that. The reason is I don't have. It's just me, so I can't check all the live chat. But, mm, but I should have. Next time I'll try to keep an eye on the Facebook live chat as well. There's 2 Facebook live chats going on at the same time. This is so awesome technology. I'm seeing 3 live streams at the same time. All right, guys. Bye. Assalamu alaikum. Taz Kidno is saying assalamu alaikum. All right. Good night. Bye.